Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Ali Craig, and we're going to be talking about why your best personal brand is all about your intuition. And during today's show, we're going to look at how her gut tried to save her from a disaster guest on her TV show, but she ignored her intuition. And also another instant where she ignored her intuition and got the business partner from hell, and how she wouldn't do that again. So also, we'll look at why using your intuition smartly can save you thousands in branding, and how she nearly died at age 21 and how that changed her connection with God and spirit. We'll also look at the amazing science behind gut instinct. And also, you may not know this about her, she has written 3 best-selling books, and she's been on hundreds of TV shows, and her secret as to how she doesn't get nervous doing any of those things. So welcome, Ali.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And she helps people use their heart, soul, and brains to sell themselves through their brand. And also, she has a TV show. What's the name of your TV show?
Fix My Brand with Ali Craig.
Fabulous. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. So let's come back to that first point about you had a guest on your TV show. They looked perfect on paper. Your producer was like, yes, Ali, we need this guest. And they answered all the questions right, but your gut was telling you something else.
Yes, clearly I am the what not to do when it comes to listening to your instincts some days, basically. You know, for season 1, when we were doing the show is on the Success Network, which is on Apple TV and Roku and all those kind of online platforms. And so, you know, we had hundreds of applications that myself and my team and the producers were going through. And then I personally interviewed a lot of the people. And, you know, there's this one brand, and they looked amazing on paper. And they answered all the questions right. And when you asked about, you know, their commitment and all that stuff, they're like, yeah. And it's like the producers are like, we love them. We love their camera presence. We love their answers. And I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'm like, I would never take them as a one-on-one client. Like, even if they could pay me all the money in the world, I wouldn't take them. And they're like, well, tell me why. And I'm like, I can't tell you why. I couldn't articulate what my gut was telling me about, this is not what to do. And so they were accepted for season 1, but they are not on season 1 because they ended up not delivering what they were supposed to do, and the kind of the falsehoods of what they were saying came through. And so we ended up being in a struggle because we didn't have backup brands. So we had to figure out a way to now fill this other episode spot that this brand was in charge of. And so we were all scrambling. So hopefully now the producers will listen to me when it comes to casting the next seasons on just, if I can't articulate why, just trust my gut that I know this isn't the right brand for us.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, how it is hard to sometimes explain to people that, you know, our guts are telling us something. How would you explain that differently? I mean,
well, I think we live in so fast-paced. At least we feel like we're supposed to be fast-paced. You know, the people I work with as entrepreneurs, everyone just feels like they're behind. And I think when you have that mindset and that perspective, you don't allow yourself to have the time to really check in with your instinct, with your gut. And then it sometimes takes practice to be able to articulate that feeling that doesn't sound logical. The facts don't add up straight, but you just know. You know, you just know without a shadow of a doubt, like, this is not the right thing. So I always say that's where nonverbal communication comes in. And so it's like, if someone wants a scientific answer on why, I'm like, it was their nonverbal communication not matching up with what their words were saying. That's my scientific answer for why I don't agree with something sometimes.
So you also had a business partner who wasn't ideal, to put it kindly.
To put it very kindly. You know, it's like you pray and you put out in the universe kind of what you really feel like you're needing or wanting. And I really thought this business partner was answer to prayer about how to really grow and help my audience. And so I was like, oh, this seems really perfect. And again, really good answers. But I remember leaving the first meeting this guy, and I got to my car and I was opening up the door, and I still remember exactly how the parking lot looked and how bright the sun was. And it was almost like I heard the voice on the inside saying, don't. just walk away. Don't ever return to this.
Wow.
But almost immediately, my brain said, but if he emails you back and does what he says, well, then look, that's proof that he's willing to, he's, a man of his word. And he did email back and he did do what he said. Then 2.5 years later, lots of, money spent and nothing good to show for it other than a really good lesson learned of that audible voice that you hear. Listen.
Well, that's great that you heard the voice.
But I didn't listen. So.
Well, it's a multiple step thing. First you have to hear the intuition or however you get the intuitive message, whether it's a gut feeling or hearing something or seeing something or getting a dream or whatever the method is. And then the second thing is acting on it, which, I think that's something that a lot of us listening could improve.
It's a progress. I like to say I'm progressing on step 2 now.
Yes. So you mentioned there that this person came in answer to a prayer. Did you have an explicit prayer you'd made?
I did actually. So I always knew about myself when I became an entrepreneur, because I became an entrepreneur when I was 18. And I became an entrepreneur because I just thought I could do it better than my boss did it. And so it was pure ballsiness that I was like becoming an entrepreneur, not because I had this great mission or heart. I'm like, I just know I can do this better and I like these people and I like serving them. So that works. And so I always knew though that I wanted to have a partner in business. And so after being divorced and thinking that my husband, or at that point ex-husband, was going to be my business partner, I was really looking for a partner to kind of help understand what being a creative entrepreneur is like, and also had a tech side, because everything is an app and a code and everything. And there's processes that I do in branding that I would love to share with the masses, but I need to have a technology part that I didn't have the skill set for in order to have the financial budget to go out and spend a couple $100,000 to find somebody to, write this code for me. And here's this guy coming in who finds me through a business referral. He's moving to the state that I currently live in. And so he's like, and he has all this knowledge and all this skill and that exact weakness that I didn't have. And so I'm like, oh, this is answer to prayer. Like, this is what I've been looking for. And he's a creative person. So he's going to understand that the creative process, it can't be scheduled sometimes. Like, you can have all intention of, doing something today between the hours of 9 and 11. But if creativity doesn't strike, it doesn't happen. I mean, that's why I love the idea of what the ancient Romans believed, that creativity was a spirit that came to visit you. I mean,
the
that's
muse,
exactly
right?
how it is for me. That's exactly how I feel like creativity is. It's a spirit that visits you, and you can't sometimes schedule that visitation.
So it sounds like this person was fulfilling a need you had, but you didn't actually have a particular prayer you put out saying, hey,
I had actually prayed for months and journaled.
Oh, you had? That's what I'm curious about. What was the wording of the prayer?
I don't remember the wording specifically, but it was that there's a way to reach the masses, to take this information. Because to me, my work really it's divinely done. I mean, it's not, there's logic and science behind it, but a lot of it is pure intuition on which way a brand should go, how to communicate to a market. That's all kind of gut instinct. And so I have, since over the last 18 years, really kind of created a process of how you can discern which way to go, like yes or no, left or right. And so I wanted to share that on a bigger scale. And I didn't know how to do it other than trying to bring it in a more tech savvy way, because I know I can only work with so many people one-on-one. I can only teach it so much one-on-one. And I was just really wanting to make a difference and bring this into the world on a bigger scale. And that's really where, like, who's going to help me do it? Because I know it's not within myself. And so when this meeting was called, I was like, maybe this is it. Maybe. And clearly I wanted it more than what it really was. But
So tell us a bit more about that, using your intuition smartly can really save you a lot of time and money on your branding.
Well, and that's the thing that most people is like a hidden secret. because branding is a deeply personal experience. If you look at what's taught to you outwardly, it's taught as a system, it's taught as a strategy. And there is strategy to it, but those are logistics. Logistics are easy to do. Building a website is easy. Creating a logo is easy. Those are logistical steps you take. But your brand is about your relationship. It's a relationship between your product and service and your audience. And you're in the mix of all that, basically. And so what entrepreneurs tend to forget is that our personality is really what a brand is. So when we can trust our gut instinct and really kind of tap in and stay grounded in who we are and what we're about and the position we're really coming from, it makes everything so much more magnetic to you. And it does that scientifically, and also it does that logistically when it comes to the audience that you really want to serve. So it's easier said than done to stay grounded some days in the crazy worlds that we live in, but it's the best method ever, because your audience walks away thinking, oh my gosh, how did they know that about me? How did they say that right word, that right phrase? How could they articulate my pain in that exact way? You know, great sales copy is wonderful, but if you can tap into your intuition, you're going to automatically say that the right phrase, position yourself the right way, share the right information at the right time that you don't necessarily logically know that that's the story or example they need to hear. It just does. And it's like, that's the holy grail when it comes to your brand, being able for your audience to see you and be like, they are the one.
Now, you mentioned grounding a few times, and I get what you mean, but maybe some people listening don't. How, you know, what do you mean by being ungrounded, and how do you stay grounded?
Staying grounded for me is a daily struggle. I will totally admit that, because, you know, there's so much noise out there, and we all logically know that, but I don't think we logically understand how many impressions we ourselves are making personally and professionally, how much intake that we're having information-wise, and how much that has changed culturally, not just within the last decade or two, just within the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, when I started doing branding, which was 98, your brand would rebrand every 6 to 8 years, because that's how fast culture was shifting. Now it's 6 to 8 months and getting closer to 3 and 4 months is how fast our society is shifting because of all the information. But with the information comes noise. And so it's easy to lose our personal perspective, our personal thoughts, our personal beliefs or reasons why we're doing things when you have all that noise on the outside trying to get in. And so for me, I really do a lot of meditation, and I'm a big fan, like really short and practical, because I can't go for a while. The idea of completely emptying my brain does not work well. And I really love mantras and power statements. I actually normally send clients mantras, and I actually have a whole list of cards that I've made for my clients.
Can you show one of them to us?
Let's see.
These are branding mantras. Sounds so intriguing. And for those people listening to us on the audio version, we'll describe what we're going to see. So
they're just really cute little cards that I've made up.
Read out what it says there, Ali.
It says, I am passionate, I am driven, I am successful. So when you have those moments of doubt that you can't do this thing, I appreciate and respond appropriately to all that people do for me. I am built for greatness, and my life reflects this. So I ended up creating these actually last year. I am always well received, which is one that a lot of people struggle with when it comes to, oh my gosh, like I got this great opportunity, but what if someone doesn't like me? What if they don't receive my message? You know, what if I put a video on Facebook and they hate it, kind of thing. So I actually made these.
And then how do you use these? Do you repeat the mantra over and over, or?
Yes. So basically, there's literally hundreds here. And so I kind of have them as a deck. And so it's almost like, okay, guide me, spirit guide me to which one. And then it's amazing how it's always guided to the right one.
Yes. So it's a bit like doing a tarot reading. You shuffle the deck with your client and you pull out the mantra that they need.
Yes, and I actually mail a lot of them to my clients as well. So that way when they have their struggles, because struggles don't happen between 9 and 5, meltdowns don't happen at business hours necessarily, that they have a tool that they can use to really kind of own their brilliance, because we forget it so often. And I think that's where grounding comes in, is that when you're grounded, you do kind of have a little bit less of those moments of doubt, because you really know what you're about. And it doesn't matter what's coming in from the outside. It doesn't matter if haters are hating. It doesn't matter if people are saying, well, I don't really get what you're doing. I don't understand. You know your intent. You know, like, you know your intent was pure, and so it's easier to stay there and to really serve, which is really what we're all about, honestly.
I love those cards. Is that something you can get on your website, or?
If your people would like them, all they have to do is email me their mailing address and I will mail them for free.
Wow.
I actually don't sell them, but I'll be happy to share them with your audience.
Wow. Well, we will give that in the show notes, and we're going to give you a website at the end of the show. So
perfect.
Yes. So I know that you had a little bit of a near-death experience. How did that affect your business? This was a while back when you were 21.
Yes, I know I don't look a day over 21, but at this point, that was like 15 years ago. No, when I was 21, my now ex-husband, but then husband, moved back to Louisiana, which is where I'm from, and we ended up getting into a house that had black mold in it, and we didn't know. And so I just started getting really sick, and we weren't sure why. And my ex-husband is a doctor, and so we went to see all his guys, all his colleagues, and they were like, we have no idea why everything's shutting down on your wife, but just leave her in the hospital, and she's going to be gone in like 6 months or less. There's no way she can live. Everything's so out of whack and horrible. And come to find out, it was actually toxic mold encephalopathy, which at that time people didn't know that much about, because I was pre-Katrina. I'm totally dating myself here. But what it did do, and what that experience has taught me, besides there is a purpose for your life, so if you're here, just like absolutely live it to the fullest on every level, but it reminded me about really feeling God's presence. I was raised in a very structured religious household and went to Catholic school my whole life, and then went to art college. So I went from super conservative to super liberal. And going through that experience, and it made me realize that my intuition, it didn't matter what the experts said. It didn't matter if these people had the best PhDs and went to the highest medical schools and all of that. They didn't know. And I couldn't necessarily communicate to them on why. I just knew what I knew. I'm like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. I don't understand why you don't know what it is. And it was by pure fluke that we actually found the diagnosis. Because before I got diagnosed with the toxic mold encephalopathy, at age 21, they told me I had MS, ALS, Alzheimer's, I had Lyme disease, West Nile, and I was just like, okay, I can't go from being a healthy 21-year-old to having 5 major illnesses. That doesn't make sense. And it was seriously by a total fluke that because at this point we were friendly, thank goodness it wasn't, the traditional doctor-patient relationship. And I was like, mail off my blood work to this one lab in California that does mold toxicity. I'm like, mail it. What does it hurt at this point? We've tried everything else. It can't get worse. And the head of the lab actually called my ex and was like, I don't know if you're still in that environment, but get out, because I've never seen numbers in 20 some odd years of running that clinic were that high. And when he was like, we've been out for 8 months and they're still that high.
Wow. So
the only reason why we had a diagnosis was because I was like, just try. What does it hurt to try? So I like to say that's my gut instinct, and I wasn't 100% aware of it.
Wow. So that gave you more of a connection with God and spirit. It also sounds like it gave you a feeling that there's more to the world than just appears on the surface.
Definitely. And I think that's one reason why I think it also shifted the brands I like to serve, because I was serving brands back then as well. And it definitely made me shift more towards the heart passion behind an entrepreneur, and that yearning that your soul has a reason and a purpose to be here. And though society says business and personal and business and spiritual are separate, the truth is they're one and the same. And at least in my book. And when it comes to creating a relationship with your audience, I think your audience wants it to be one and the same, because they're not separate entities. You're not a separate entity. And I think there's more harmonious and a whole approach, because the truth is the really good brands, it isn't logistics. You know, there's hundreds of people doing the exact same thing you do, or products that you have. It is really about being able to touch that deeper level, that subconscious mind, our innate human needs that we have, the stories that we have running through our brains, and really making that true connection. You know, it's interesting to see the shift in audiences. If you look at human needs psychology, there's fundamental human needs that we all have. And the funny thing is that early to mid 2000s, I could guarantee you that significant growth and contribution were going to be the top 3 for 90% of any brand out there. That's just what it is. If you were trying to market to anybody in the United States, significance would be your number 1. Your audience wanted to know they mattered and that they were the bomb.com, basically. It's totally shifted though. Now, love is almost up to number 1 for most brands. And love is about feeling that you're purely accepted for just being you. Not for what you give, not for what you do, but just for who you are. It's amazing to see that shift, that is the need that most audiences are truly having. And if your brand can speak to that, and if you are your brand, and you allow your intuition to guide you, you're going to find the perfect ways to fulfill those needs for your audience. And you couldn't ever strategize that out, but it would be the most impactful work for you and for them.
That's amazing. It sounds like it's less that you do branding work and you're more in touch with the zeitgeist of society.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So I'm also wondering, you know, we talked before we started the interview about your life book and how this near-death experience, you know, connected you with that a bit more. Tell us what a life book is for those who don't know that they have one.
I don't know if I can say it perfectly on what a life book is, but in my world, before we got here, because I do think there was a before that we got here, and I do think there was an after once we're not in this physical body, that we chose our path on many levels of who we were going to create or meet, what we were going to create, what our purpose is, and the obstacles we were going to come across. And I think often, actually.
Well, you wrote a humdinger of a book there, Allie.
I know, that's exactly what I think. I think, gosh, I was ballsy up there. You know, like before my soul entered this body, my spirit entered this body, I think, wow, I thought I could like take on the world and then some. Like, whoa, let's just add some more and then some more. So that's kind of where the life book is. And I honestly, you laugh at it on lots of levels and you think, okay, if I did think I could do it, then I could do it. I can still do it. So no matter how tough days get, you can still do it.
That's a great attitude to have. Have you edited your life book since you became more aware of it?
I don't know. I don't know if you edited or if you already edited it. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, was this plan here that I decided to change it, or did I already decide that I was going to give myself a little bit of a detour? Yeah. Though I have to say, I look very forward to seeing the big picture on the other side and reading it from cover to cover and seeing the whole landscape from that, you know, bigger perspective, because that's what I do for brands. I look big and I look close. And right now I'm looking close when it comes to my life book. I look forward to looking at it from a bigger perspective in the future.
Well, what would it take for you to have that perspective on your own life book?
I don't know.
Other than dying, you know,
yeah,
which
we don't want you.
I'm just wondering if, you know, some meditation or some magic mushroom or something else would...
Well, I can't have mushrooms. That's a fungus. That'd kill me instantly.
Oh, there you go. Well, LSD then. Never know. Maybe that's part of what one of these psychedelic experiences is, having a bigger view of your whole life book.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I know you're also involved in some of the science behind gut instincts. Tell us a bit about that, because I know some people listening are into the woo-woo stuff and some people aren't. And maybe the ones who aren't, it helps to know there is a science behind this.
Well, and that's the amazing thing that we're realizing now. It's like we have had all these ancient principles and ancient books for thousands of years at this point, and we as a society for the most part think it was past or it was woo or whatnot. But now we have the science and technology to actually prove the truth in a lot of it. And so there's HeartMath Institute, which has been around since the 1970s, that is focused on figuring out the science behind the heart. And it's amazing the work that they're doing to know that the electromagnetic field that your heart alone produces, which is not your aura, that is a completely different thing, goes 200 feet outside of your radiance.
200 feet?
200 feet.
Well, doesn't that mean if you're in a room with other people, you're like feeling their heart energy?
You are, especially if you're grounded and into your intuition, you will be. And the great thing is that it's magnetic. So what are magnets? Like attracts like. And so when you're grounded into your intuition, think about how powerful that can be, to know that that gut instinct that you're having it really is something that your body is trying to biologically share with you, and to listen to that and to honor that this isn't some crazy idea or thought in your head. That's really your body working to your advantage.
Mm. And HeartMath has these little machines you can hook up with to connect.
They even have an app for that, like everyone else. And but a lot of their science, actually, they have a whole series that's just based on getting into your heart rhythm, and that you don't even need the app or anything for, and the information is free on their website. So it's a great resource that if you really want to know more about the science behind it, that they have that scientific proof. And I find it very fascinating to know, like, this was already something that I believed, and I didn't know why I believed it. And then to know their scientific proof, like, it's like, yeah, it wasn't some crazy woo that I just chose to believe, I just chose to make important. Like, that was really my gut instinct telling me there's something deeper here. You just don't fully understand the situation at hand.
Mm. And there's also we have the brain in our head, but we have, our gut brain, and that's been scientifically shown too. Yes.
See, part of what I do is nonverbal communication. And so we have all these expressions like gut instinct and the weight of the world on your shoulders. And when you realize scientifically where those came from, I find that very humorous. So the top of your gut actually has very similar neurological tissue as in your brain. So it really does have that gut instinct about it. And your heart is your fastest connection is to your brain from your heart than any other neural connection or blood connection in your entire body. And so that is just amazingly fascinating to me. Like, where in society, when these phrases came up, we didn't know the science behind it. And now you know the science behind it. It's like why we wear wedding bands on our ring finger of our left hand versus our right hand, because this is the fastest connection straight into the heart and then straight into the brain.
Mm. And if you haven't come across the gut brain before, if you ever look at antidepressants, they tell you, not only is this going to affect your brain, but it affects your digestion. And that's because it's affecting neurons, in the gut as well as in the brain. So that's an example of that.
We aren't separate entities.
Yes, it's a brain.
No Western medicine says cut off the arm and it won't hurt anything. It's all meant to work together.
Yes, it is. I was reading the other day that, how they have all these robotic arms that they give people who've had amputations. They're actually doing amputations differently now, because they want to have a good connection from the person's stump of their arm to the thing. So they actually, they hadn't done it differently for hundreds of years, but now they're doing that differently so they can have a better connection there.
It's amazing to see that work in action. I mean, to say that what the power of the mind really has, and to think that if the power of the mind can control this robotic arm. But then to say that the power of the mind has no effect, having negative thoughts has no effect on your life or your business. I mean, it's like, okay, well, you can't have it both ways. My mind can't be so powerful that I can control this arm, but yet not so powerful that it's not going to create in life what I'm secretly thinking.
Well, I mean, for folks who don't think their thoughts affect their body and their business, there's a great book called The Biology of Belief. And I'm spacing on the guy who wrote it, but it will come to me in a moment, particularly when Mr. Google or Ms. Google tells me. Bruce Lipton. And he talks about the biology behind how beliefs do affect our bodies. And I think our beliefs affect our businesses too.
They completely do. I was actually just having a conversation with another entrepreneur, and she focuses on helping women who are in service-based industries, because service-based industries are so few, they're not spoken to often. Everyone's told to make an e-product, have a coaching practice, but no one's told, like, do your craft kind of thing. And we were chatting about really the negative self-talk that women have, and I'm sure guys have it too, and the negative stories that society has embedded, intentionally or unintentionally, that's another debate, in our brains, and how that can affect, like, it doesn't matter if you pretend, you try to be this super powerhouse, if your internal dialogue is, why would anyone ever want to work with me? I'm a fraud. I don't really think I'm an expert. It's going to come across. It's like a couple of years ago when the American market crashed, and I was actually doing a lot of volunteer work for this government program called Workforce, which was to help people get jobs. And I was helping them do their interview skills. So practice interviews. And this lady came in. I didn't want to meet them before. I wanted them to be as original, natural as possible. This woman came in, and she's walking like this, and she has this power suit on in her mind, and she gives me a handshake, and it's like a death grip. I'm like, but she's really short. Like, she's 5 foot. Like, and I'm 5'5", so you're really short. And so, like, this death grip, and I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, have a lovely seat, and so we start chatting, we do the mock interview, and the whole time she's leaning across the desk, over halfway through, and she's just doing the death stare. She's not blinking.
The death stare?
She's just staring at me right into my eyes, no blinking, just really leaning forward, answering the questions, but just like, I'm like, okay. And so then afterwards, I was like, tell me what was up with that. I was told that if I did a firm handshake, that meant that I was secure in who I was. I was told that if I leaned forward, that meant I was interested. And I was told that if I looked you directly in the eyes, that showed that I was engaged. And I'm like, you look like a rabid dog. I'm like, it has to come naturally. That's nonverbal communication. You can't fake it. You got to feel it.
So you've been on hundreds of TV shows, Ali, and you've written 3 best-selling books, but you never get nervous when you go on TV shows?
I don't actually. It doesn't matter if it's a TV show or speaking. I mean, I've had interviews where we're supposed to talk about business style for women in the summer, and I get to the show and I meet the host, and they're like, yeah, I don't really want to talk about this. We're going to talk about swimsuit trends instead. And we're live in 3, we're live in 2, we're live in 1. It's like, what are you going to say? Because the producer has prepared for business style, and this chick wants to talk to you about swimsuits. And you're like, wait, I do branding. Let's all this tie together. I don't get nervous because it's not about me. None of this, to me, is about me. And I think that's one reason why I work so hard and I am so driven to create and to serve, is because I love helping David beat Goliath. It's one of my most favorite stories in the Bible. It still is to this day, that idea of having a little guy win. And it's not about me. It's God coming through me. It's the universe coming through me. It's not my answer. And so that's one reason why I've learned long ago that I don't work well with corporations, because corporations want the facts. They want, like, factually, what should this ROI be? And I'm like, I can't tell you factually, but I can tell you, like, instinctually, that ain't the way to go. I can't give you the ROI on it right now. I can probably come up with some statistics to support my theory, but my gut instinct tells you this isn't the way to go. And it's not, and I know that's not me. I know that's not because I'm this super smart human being. I know this is really my calling for why I'm supposed to be here right now. So that's way higher than this body.
That is great. It seems to give you a lot of energy and drive, and it also lets you just be true to yourself.
Yes, which is the easiest way to be when it comes to your brand.
Instead of having to lean forward and stare because you were
Yes.
told to do that. Hopefully that woman has learned from that experience.
I really hope and pray, honestly, because
Yes.
it was a little scary.
Yeah. So anything else you want to share with people listening about using their intuition in their business? Oh.
You know, I think the marketplace is flooded with systems and strategies, and follow what the guru did. It's not going to work for you, and it's just an honest, truthful fact. There's many reasons why. Society's changing too quickly. They're different than you. The truth is that it doesn't matter if the experts say to do it this way. I mean, after I got divorced, that was the worst time in my business in all of 18 years, because I didn't want to be an entrepreneur solo. And so that's when I hired my first really expensive business coach. Again, thought I was doing the right thing there. And that took my business down a rabbit hole for 3 years that didn't produce anything except loss of money, because it was doing business their way, where I knew in my gut instinct that wasn't the right message for me. Like, they didn't understand my true message, but that's okay if everyone doesn't understand your true message. You have to understand you and stay true to that, stay grounded in that, and just trust your intuition. That you may have a lot of people, you may bounce off a lot of people who are like, I don't get that. That's confusing. That's fine. They're not your people. You're going to find your right people. You're going to find that right little niche, and they're going to stop and look at you and think you're absolutely brilliant. And those are the people you're meant to serve.
Well, that is an inspiring message for a lot of people out there who want to change the world with their business. So I appreciate you sharing that. And, you know, I'm on a mission here myself to get people, to get all entrepreneurs to openly use their intuition at work, because I think it will make them more money. They'll be happier, less stressed. I also believe if everyone was using their intuition, we'd make less dumbass decisions in our businesses that hurt other people or hurt the planet.
Well, and I think it is shifting, though. If you look at where the market was, it is shifting. It's just a slower shift than some of us would like.
Yeah. Well, what would it take to make that shift happen this year?
I think people being honest. I think the honesty, especially as entrepreneurs, when you look at social media, everything's perfect and rosy and everyone's making a bajillion of dollars, and no one's being really real about what they're really doing or what their struggles really are, I think being truthful and being vulnerable, which is a great buzzword, but I think very few people really can do it in a smart way, because being vulnerable isn't crying to your audience on Facebook or social media about your life being horrible, but it is about being real about, you know, the truth about what your life is. That's one reason why on my bio, 3 quick sentences of me is that almost died at 21, divorced, adult dating, that's always a fun one on psychology. And then I'm a mom to 8 cats, you know, which everyone thinks I'm the crazy cat lady. And it's just, you know, but that's the truth about me. It's really who I am, and it's, you know, where my life and my perspective for business comes from. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of, it creates connection by being honest and vulnerable. There's a friend of mine who, she does a video blog, and she did a challenge to herself to have 30 days of being vulnerable on her video daily blog. And she told all kinds of stories on that, and got a lot of great connection with her audience from doing that. But it is a challenge for a lot of people to be vulnerable.
I think society has a misconception of what vulnerability is. It's not weakness, and it's not necessarily guts and all the mess of life. You know, it can be sometimes, but there's a way to be vulnerable just simply by saying your truthful perspective about what you believe and what you think, versus being concerned about, oh, will they not like me now? Or will they think less of me now because I tell them the truth? What if I'm really honest with this brand about, I don't think that what they're going after is going to make them the finances they think, or they don't see the flaw in that thought. You know, I don't want to be mean, and I don't want to be, you know, you're supposed to be nice. You're supposed to be kind. And it's all that internal look of a story inside your head just stops you in your tracks from actually just being real and true and vulnerable and trusting your gut.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there, that we're not trained to be okay with being vulnerable. You know, that's not how schools typically train children, right?
Nope, not in the least.
Which is a shame, you know, because that's where the real connection and humanity occurs.
Exactly.
The person's name was Connie. I'm going to probably mispronounce her last name. It's Belinsky. I'll put it in the show notes.
God bless the show notes. It's like,
yes,
the show notes.
exactly. But you can find it on YouTube. Well, fabulous. So if people want to find you online, what's the best ways to do that, Ali?
The easiest way is the Ali Craig. So TheAliCraig.com. So thealicraig.com. I'm the Ali Craig on every single social media platform out there. So whatever your fancy is, I probably have an account, or at least I'm redirecting you to the accounts that I actually really love. So.
And if they want to find your TV show, where would they find that?
It is Fix My Brand with Ali Craig. So if you have Apple TV, you want to find the Success Network, and that's where we air, is on the Success Network. It is available on Apple TV, Roku, or Amazon Fire. And if by chance you do not have any of those TV methods, just go to fixmybrandwithalicraig.com, and we're airing all the shows there as well. They air every Tuesday. So.
Wow, fabulous. So, and if someone wants to email you, they can find a contact page on your website, I'm guessing?
Yep. You can find a contact page on either fixmybrandwithalicraig.com or thealicraig.com.
Excellent. Just in case they want those brand mantra cards.
Yes, if you want your brand little cards, I'm happy to send you a deck. So.
All right. Very generous of you. Well, it's been fabulous talking with you today, Ali.
Thank you so much for having me. I've so enjoyed our conversation.